Next comes the Hero of the Seas Award, awarded to a marine grassroots activist, seaweed activist, or activists who have made a major and long-term commitment to improving the quality of the ocean and the communities that depend on them. So the person who's been chosen to give this award is the president of the California Fish and Game Commission and executive director of Audubon, California, and a whole lot more. Michael Sutton.
Thank you, Sylvia. When I heard Sylvia was the MC tonight, I said to myself, I guess we won't be having seafood for dinner this evening. But good evening, everybody. We are gathered tonight to celebrate the work of two real ocean heroes and two great friends of mine, Kaitilin Gaffney and Garrison. Now, most of you know that over the past decade, California has succeeded in creating the largest network of marine reserves anywhere in the United States, over 800 miles of coastline. What you may not be aware is the pivotal role that these two heroes played in that groundbreaking initiative. In the late 1990s, conservationists, including our two heroes, persuaded the California legislature to pass a law called the Marine Life Protection Act, or MLPA, signed by Governor Davis in 1999. I won't bore you with the long and elaborate story of how this was done, but suffice it to say that implementing that law took more than a decade, and through it all, our heroes of the sea served as tireless advocates for the oceans. They were the voices of reason in a symphony of discord and controversy. But more importantly, Karen and Kaitilin helped bring diverse stakeholders together and forge agreement across many interests. They suffered the slings and arrows of their peers from all sides, and I suspect that they have the scar tissue to show for it. But it's not an exaggeration to say that without their efforts, California's MLPA initiative might not have happened. We might not have the nation's largest network of marine reserves today. Because even if you have all of the ingredients of success, sufficient funding, political support at the highest levels, an elaborate public process, we all know that it's true leadership that makes all the difference. And more recently, Karen and Kaitilin, marine reserves weren't enough for them. They had to take on the management of forage fisheries, and we now have, thanks to them and their brokering of all the diverse interests, probably the most progressive forage fish policy in the nation as well in the state of California. And they've forged consensus on seismic testing offshore and so many other things. Ladies and gentlemen, for their leadership on behalf of California's marine environment, it's my pleasure to present the 2013 Hero of the Seas Award to Kaitilin Gaffney and Karen Garrison.
Good evening, everyone. I'm deeply honored by this award. It really belongs to all Californians. They brought heart, hope, and vision to this effort, and that made all the difference. When our lawmakers first took up the idea of a network of underwater parks, I knew it was the right thing to do for the ocean. What I didn't fully get was just how potent a force for change those parks would be for people. There's no silver bullet for protecting life in the sea, but an engaged and motivated public is certainly the most powerful tool I know. What we found in California is that Yosemites of the sea and their promise of restoring wild places viscerally sparked the public imagination. Aldo Leopold said that no important change in human conduct is ever accomplished without internal changes in our affections and our convictions. Underwater parks have spurred exactly those kinds of changes up and down the Pacific coast. On California's north coast, local residents, many from Indian tribes, worked through their differences on protected areas. They agreed on a plan that respected traditional tribal harvests. The state, not exactly known for its great rapport with the tribes, then took bold steps to support that plan, sparking a new level of cooperation. And that prompted some tribes, in turn, to start codifying their age-old unwritten conservation practices. In the words of one tribal leader, this is a story about what went right. On the Central Coast, a commercial fisherman whose fishing grounds were affected by new protected areas retooled his boat to serve as a research vessel. Now he's sought after by scientists who monitor protected areas. He also keeps other fishermen informed. He says that being part of this effort is the most meaningful work he's ever done. Further south on the Central Coast, thousands of people joined forces last year to protect their local underwater parks, defeating a proposal for seismic surveys that would have devastated porpoises and other marine life in and around those havens. The region's parks have become a forceful tool for safeguarding their fisheries, as well as the oceans residents love. California ocean parks are already producing bigger fish and healthier reef communities, but they're doing much more. They're transforming internal attitudes and external behavior. They're inspiring a sense of place and a vital sense of ownership of the sea. Protecting the ocean requires getting past the view that it's simply too vast to suffer significant harm. We must find ways to make our connection with the sea more intimate, more personal. Hope spots, as Sylvia likes to call them, certainly do just that. Working with Kaitilin and our allies on this was an inspiration in itself. I would follow this woman anywhere to work with her. Many thanks to NRDC and Ocean Conservancy for their unwavering support, and thanks to the Benchley Awards for shining a spotlight on California's alluring new parks. May we all treasure and enjoy them.
Thank you. Hanging on the wall of my office in Santa Cruz, California, is a handmade quilt. Any quilters in the audience tonight? It takes a lot of work to make a quilt. It takes thoughtful planning. You have to choose a pattern, select the fabric and thread. It takes meticulous execution. You have to measure and cut out all the pieces, lay them out, fit them together like a jigsaw puzzle. Above all, it takes patience. The quilt that hangs in my office has dozens of different fabrics, hundreds of pieces, joined together by thousands of tiny, perfect little stitches. The title of the quilt is Ocean Garden, and its colors are the colors that you see kayaking or scuba diving off the California coast. Green, like the giant kelp forest, Macrocystis, found in Point Lobos and Carmel Bay off Catalina Island. Each kelp plant is like an undersea apartment building with different tenants living at different levels. The root-like holdfasts serve as nursery for spiny lobster and sea urchin. Midway up, schools of blue rockfish, sheephead, shelter, and the fronds. And sea otters are the penthouse suite tenant up in the top canopy. Orange, like the Garibaldi, California marine state fish. They're found swimming off of La Jolla Cove and Anacapa Island, known as Pilapicho by the Chumash, who have stewarded the ocean waters off Channel Islands and Santa Barbara since time immemorial. The Garibaldi is an incredibly bright orange fish. It looks like nothing more than a giant Partridge Farms goldfish. Orange, like the sunflower sea star, Pycnopodia, that clings with 24 arms to the tide pools at Duxbury Reef, at Natural Bridges, and in Laguna. And of course, blue, deep inky blue, like the Monterey Canyon that plunges 2 full miles from the sea surface to its depths. Slate blue, like the blue whales that migrate off Point Reyes, the Big Sur coast, and at Point Dume. And teal, like the nutrient-rich water of the Elkhorn Slough, the Humboldt Estuary, the Tijuana Estuary, critical links in the Pacific Flyway, where over 1 billion birds migrate every year. It took a lot to make California's new network of marine protected areas, too. It took thoughtful planning. Volunteers contributed over 38,000 hours of time to designing the protected areas. It took meticulous execution. The network of protection in California has 124 separate components, including all of the special places that I just named, and many, many more. Above all, it took patience, 13 years, as you've heard. So I'm deeply honored to accept this award tonight, and I do so with a view Karen already eloquently expressed, that we're accepting it on behalf of the work of hundreds of Californians, many of whom are in the audience tonight. I'm also especially honored to accept this award as a joint award with my esteemed colleague and very good friend, the woman who wrote the Marine Life Protection Act, shepherded it every step of the way, and also the artist who sewed the quilt that hangs on the wall in my office in Santa Cruz, California. Quilter and advocate extraordinaire, Karen Garrison.